Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Kari's Confessions, a nonprofit exec tells all. I'm Kari Anderson, your host and principal with Incite Consulting. My podcast explores the tools and strategies that help nonprofit leaders grow their impact and build resilient organizations. As always, I'm here to share some hard earned lessons and honest truths from life inside the nonprofit world. I spent 25 plus years in the nonprofit sector and leadership roles with 7 organizations. Now, I provide coaching and consulting services to ensure that nonprofits, like yours, have the structure, systems, and practices to do your best work. Wherever I go, I continue to hear that nonprofit execs need a space to gather, to receive tools, feedback, and advice that encourages them to stay the course. It doesn't matter if you're in a village of 182 or a metropolis of millions, nonprofit work is both gratifying and lonely. I'm here to make sure that you have a chance to breathe, laugh, smirk, and get excited again about the important work that you do. Today, we're going to talk more about why strategic roadmaps fail and what you can do to change that. So, if you've ever walked out of a strategic planning retreat feeling energized, like this time this is really going to work, only to find the plan collecting dust 6 months later, you're not alone. I can't tell you how many nonprofit leaders I've worked with who say some version of, we spent so much time and money on a consultant on that plan, and then real life took over. And honestly, I get it. I've been in those retreat rooms as a staff member and as a board director. I've watched teams pour heart, time, and money into a beautiful strategic roadmap, complete with bold goals, polished language, and color coded timelines, only to have it quietly fade into the background while everyone goes back to putting out daily fires. So today, I want to talk about why strategic roadmaps fail, and more importantly, how to build one that actually works. Because here's what I've learned after years of working with nonprofits across the country. A strategic roadmap only works when vision and action are treated as two sides of the same coin, not vision or action, vision plus action. When these two are truly connected, your roadmap becomes a living, breathing tool, not just a document you feel guilty about ignoring. So let's talk, first of all, honestly, about why strategic roadmap, plan, priority, call it whatever you want to call it, right? Why they fail. And I'd like to start by naming the problem. Strategic roadmap failure usually isn't about laziness, lack of intelligence, or lack of care. Most nonprofit leaders that I know care deeply. The plan fails because clarity breaks down, execution gets fuzzy, and people drift in different directions. I've seen this play out in 3 very common ways. So, common way number 1, execution never gets off the ground. This is the big one. A plan sounds great in theory: expand our impact, strengthen sustainability, deepen community engagement, but no one ever translates that into the work that has to get done on a Tuesday. So I worked once with an organization whose strategic goal was literally phrased as become a leader in community transformation. Inspiring? Sure. Actionable? Absolutely not. When I asked staff what that meant for their day-to-day work, I got blank stares. Not because they didn't care, but because no one had bridged the gap between aspiration and execution. Without clear owners, timelines, and next steps, even the best ideas stay stuck at the idea level. So here's barrier number 2, stakeholder misalignment. This one is sneaky and incredibly common. I worked with a nonprofit where the executive director was frustrated that the board wasn't stepping up around fundraising. Sound familiar? Meanwhile, board members were frustrated because they thought the staff had it covered. No one was being difficult. Everyone was just operating from different assumptions. When roles and priorities aren't explicitly aligned, progress stalls. Not because people won't act, well, maybe not with fundraising, but that's a different podcast, but because everyone's waiting for someone else to go first. And the third most common cause in terms of strategic plans or roadmaps not getting off the ground, no monitoring or course correction. So it's that lack of follow through. If there aren't regular check-ins, no metrics, and no space to ask, is this actually working? Then your roadmap freezes in time. I've seen plans that were technically still active 2 years later, even though the world had changed. Funding had shifted and the organization itself looked completely different. A roadmap that doesn't adapt stops being useful. So, we want a vision that actually pulls people forward. Here's the truth: your roadmap will never gain traction if people don't understand why the work matters. Vision isn't fluff, it's fuel. I like to think of vision as your North Star. When things get hard, and they will, sometimes every day, it's what helps people stay oriented instead of burned out. Your vision answers the question, what does the world look like because our nonprofit exists? Your mission answers, what do we do and who do we serve to make that future real? Some of the strongest examples are also the simplest. Habitat for Humanity talks about building homes, communities, and hope. Charity Water paints a picture of a world where everyone has access to clean water. You instantly get it. When I'm facilitating strategic planning, I always slow teams down here, even when I want to rush ahead to goals and tactics, because without clarity at this level, everything else wobbles. I'll ask questions like, 5 or 10 years from now, what's different because of you? What problem exists today that you are uniquely positioned to address? What makes this work worth it on the hard days? And here's the question: your vision and mission aren't just statements, they're decision making tools. If an idea doesn't move you closer to that vision, it doesn't belong in your roadmap, and doesn't matter how interesting it sounds or how happy you would make a donor. So let's assess where you're actually starting. Once your destination is clear, that's your vision, we need to get honest about the starting point. You can't map a route if you don't know where you're standing. I see nonprofits skip this step all the time, usually because they're tired, under resourced, or eager to just move forward, checking the box, right? We've done this plan, now we can move along. But skipping situational analysis is like building on quicksand. So using the SWOT in the right way helps with this. SWOT analysis gets a bad rep sometimes, but when done well, it's incredibly useful for your organization. When we think about strengths, what do you genuinely do well? Where do you have trust, credibility, or momentum? When we're discussing weaknesses, where are you stretched thin? Underfunded? Lacking systems or capacity? When we get to the opportunity section of the SWOT, what trends, partnerships, or shifts could work in your favor? And we have to talk about threats. What external factors could derail progress? The most effective SWOTs I've facilitated are grounded in reality, not wishful thinking or defensiveness. And when you pair that with a clear look at who else is serving your community and where the gaps are, you start to see strategic lanes emerge, and that is gold. So, when I'm thinking about really successful strategic planning, it involves setting smart goals that don't live in fantasy land. So the goals are actually how we're going to make sure that we're moving towards your mission and vision. Smart goals get overused, but there's a reason they stick around. They protect you from creating plans that sound good and go nowhere. I always tell teams, if you can't measure it, assign it, and time bound it, it's not a goal, it is a hope. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. That's a smart goal. I've seen goals transform simply by getting more precise. For example, increased fundraising becomes secure $250,000 in major gifts from 15 new donors by December 31st, 2026. Suddenly, people know what success looks like and what they're working towards. So I want you to consider turning goals into action plans that your people actually can use. This is where strategy either comes alive or quietly dies. Goals without action plans are just wishes. Every strategic goal needs to be broken down into concrete initiatives, things real humans can do with real calendars. Let's say your goal was to increase program participation by 30% in a year. It doesn't happen magically. It happens through actions like redesigning outreach materials, launching targeted campaigns, hosting community events, building referral systems. And here's the part that matters most: every action needs a single owner, not a committee, not the team, one name. This isn't about blame, it's about clarity. When people know what they own, momentum follows. So, this is all well and good, right? When we're engaging board and staff, but I want to talk to you about creating real stakeholder buy-in for your plans. So even the best plans fail if people don't feel connected to them. Engagement isn't about informing, it's about involving. Some of the most powerful moments I've seen in strategic planning happen when board members are invited to co-create instead of react. Staff are asked what will actually work on the ground. Quieter voices are intentionally brought into the conversation. Workshops, one-on-one interviews, and short surveys all have their place, but the goal is the same: shared ownership. This is why in any strategic planning session that I'm involved with, that there's community stakeholder input by those not employed or board directors of the organization. When people help shape the roadmap, they fight for it when things get hard. So, a couple other things for you to consider when relooking at your strategic planning and road mapping process. Doing less to do better. This is sometimes uncomfortable for folks, but really essential. Nonprofits care deeply. The needs in your community are real. And the instinct to try to do everything is consistent and constant. But spreading yourself too thin guarantees burnout and half-finished initiatives. I often use an impact effort matrix with teams to make this visible. High impact, low effort, start there. High impact, high effort, plan carefully. Low impact, let it go. A strong roadmap isn't just about what you will do, it's about what you're choosing not to do right now. Now, once we've got a plan in place, we need to monitor progress without micromanaging. If you don't track progress, you're guessing, right? Hope is not a strategy. And strategy by guesswork is exhausting. Every major initiative needs a small set of meaningful KPIs, just enough to answer, is this working? Monthly check-ins keep things visible. Quarterly reviews create space for learning. And when the data shows something isn't working, that's not failure, it's information. And pivot. The strongest organizations I work with treat strategy as a learning process, not a performance test. So now we need to communicate this plan or this roadmap so that it actually sticks. A roadmap no one understands won't get used. Different audiences need different messages. Boards want sustainability and mission alignment. Staff want clarity about their role. Donors want impact. Volunteers want meaning. So visual summaries, storytelling, role-specific conversations, this is how strategy becomes shared language instead of leadership jargon. Now, one of my last wishes for you is that you actually embrace the roadmap as a living document, because this is often, besides execution, where the wheels fall off the bus. So your roadmap isn't a contract, it's a compass. I often compare it to a GPS system. The destination stays the same, but the route changes when conditions change. This is why quarterly reviews matter. This is why monthly check-ins with staff meetings matter. This is why reflection and adaptation matter. It allows your vision to stay steady. Tactics evolve, but this is how your strategy stays relevant. So think back to your last strategic plan. Doesn't matter what it looked like. If it was not executed, it doesn't mean, per se, that you did something wrong. It means perhaps that your vision and action didn't stay connected. When you bridge that gap, when purpose guides priorities and priorities drive your daily work, you create a roadmap or plan that people actually use. And that's when strategy stops being a document and starts becoming momentum for your organization. Thanks for spending this time with me. And here's to building strategies that don't just look good but work. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a colleague or board member. Make sure to follow me on your favorite streaming platforms. And for additional resources and tools, follow me on LinkedIn. You can also check out my website at inciteconsultinggroup.com. Until next time, have a great week.